Hi all. Today we're going to talk about branches in Git and that's supposed to be a slash Git slash GitHub. The three things we're going to cover are what are branches, why should you use branches or why do we use them, what is a merge conflict, and what is a pull request. If you don't know what this is, merge conflict or a pull request, don't worry about it. We'll first get into what they are, and then also uh, the technicality into, I guess not the technicality, but why you should be aware of it. So let's quickly jump into branches. And if you're not already familiar with what Git and GitHub is, there is another video that I've made which talks about that. So check that out before you jump into this. And we'll keep this super high level, more theory based than technical. So we won't go into how to use branches or how to make them, but more about what they are, why you should use them. If you do want to learn more about, how to create a new branch, things like that, if you do a quick search, you can very quickly get the commands. But I think it's very important to know the why behind it. So that's why we're going to cover that in this video. So in Git, the whole idea is that you're working with teams across, uh, in Git at least, across your local network. But with GitHub now, you can work with teams across the world, right? Because GitHub lets you upload your Git files to the internet, and so you can collaborate across the world. And so that's where branches come into play. Branches are the crux of how you collaborate without stepping over someone else's changes, right? Or just messing up your whole code base without having a backup for it, right? Things like that. So when you create a code base and you initialize a Git repository, you start off with one branch, right? And that is usually your main or master branch. Right now, that branch, let's say, starts here, and we'll make a little timeline, right? We'll make a little line, and this branch contains your code that is, let's say, all good to go. Let's say it's a website, it's up and running. There's no bugs in it. There's nothing wrong with this at all. It is in pristine condition. But now let's say you have two people, person A and person B, who wanna add some new features to it, right? So person A starts off and starts making their changes right here. They start adding their changes, and first, they're gonna take this into their local computer, right? This is their local computer, and then person B also comes in, right? Let's say this is A. Person B comes in, and person B takes it into their local computer and starts making their changes. But the issue here is both of these people could be working on the same piece of the code. And then when they try to push up, well, you don't know what changes to take in, right? And you're gonna get merge conflict. You might break, and once again, we'll get into what merge conflict is. But let's just say it's something that's bad. You'll run into merge conflict, or you might end up just breaking master. So this pristine website you had is now just broken. You have to revert, then you have to communicate with each other, figure out who's going to push first, and then the other person has to pull down. It's a mess, right? So that's where branches would come in, and branches would help you solve this problem. The whole idea of branches is what you do is, let's say you want to add some new features to it. What you would do is, instead of just directly making the change on your main branch, you would actually create a new branch, right? You would branch off into a new branch, and you would start adding your features here. And you would name your branch according to the feature you were adding. So let's just call this one F1 for feature 1. Right? You're working on feature 1 here, and then person B wants to work on feature 2 in this one. Right? So now you have 3 branches: your main, your F1, and your F2. Now person A and person B can very easily make their changes without stepping on each other's changes, right? They can keep pushing. Each of these little dots is a change that they're pushing. Okay, so they keep pushing until they get to a state where let's say they come down here and they get to a state where they're happy with their changes, right? Green signifies, we're all good, things are working. So they've tested their changes, it's all good to go, and now they're ready to put this out into production. So what they're going to do here is they're going to go ahead and they're going to merge their branch. Right now, this is where things could get bad, but let's assume a nice case here. And the nice case is you merge this change in, and now feature 1 is in main, and you pushed out to production and things are working as expected. And then person B over here was working on feature number 2, also wants to push their changes in, and you go ahead and they also push their changes in. Now F2 is here, and both of these F1 and F2 were working on 2 completely separate components that did not really touch each other's changes. But in the previous example, we were talking about both of these people stepping on each other's toes. So what if we have that same instance with branches, right? Have we really solved the problem there? Well, in a way, yes, right? Because what's going to happen here is, let's say F1 got merged in first, right? Then what's going to happen is F2, ideally what you would do is you would, instead of merging it into master, what you would do is you would first merge master into your branch. And then what would happen here is you would see something called merge conflicts. And I kind of brought that up before, but we'll now fully get into what that is. Now what merge conflict is let's say person A and person B were both working on code changes that affected the same file, right? Let's say these are files, and let's say this is login.java. This is also login.java. And over here, let's say you had these files, and now person A made these changes while person B made these changes. Now what's going to happen here is once you merge master, so person A's changes, sorry, I feel like I'm using person A, person 2 without writing what is what, so let me just quickly write down A, and this right here is B, right? So this right here is A, and this right here is B. So A has already been merged in, right? This is what we now have in master. So now when you merge master into yours, you're going to get a merge conflict. Oh, didn't mean to do that. You're going to get a merge conflict, which is basically going to say that, hey, I'm seeing 2 different versions of changes here. One is the incoming, which is coming from master, and the other is what you have, right? And how Git words it is their changes, right? So this is theirs and yours. Sorry, you can't really tell what that says anymore, but it's supposed to be theirs, and this is yours. And it'll ask you, Do you want me to accept their changes, or do you want me to accept slash keep your changes that are already there? Or the third option is keep both, and you'll manually go in and pick out what needs to be there and remove what shouldn't be there. And you might want to do that if things are very, very intricate, the changes, to where you can't just get rid of one versus the other. But there might be instances where you can just pick one versus the other, right? In this case, let's say it is intricate, you go ahead and pick both, and you know what person A was trying to do, or you have a conversation with them, and you figure out that, hey, we need to keep some lines that you changed versus the other lines that they changed, and you go ahead and do those changes, and you get to a new state with those changes, and you're happy with what you have there, right? So now F1 is also in your branch because you merged master into yours. What was already in master slash main is also in your branch, and you have your F2 changes, right? So this, all three of these is at this stage, right? So this stage is the most updated stage. Then at this point, what you're going to do is you're going to go ahead and merge this into master. And now you have master in production, which has uh, all of the new features, which is F1 and F2, and it also has not broken because you were working on separate branches. And so the merge conflict that you encountered, you had the ability to test and make sure that they were the changes that you wanted instead of pushing directly into master and potentially having that be a costly breakdown. So I hope that makes sense. That kind of goes into what branches are, why we should use them, what a merge conflict is, and now real quickly we're going to go into what a pull request is. So there's a step here, right, that we skipped, and that is, how does merging happen? Now you can, using Git, go ahead and just merge on your own and simply push that out to master or to main and just have that be the final version. But as humans, you are likely to make mistakes here and there. So when you're working with teams, it is good to create pull request, which is a very GitHub concept, right? It's less of a Git concept, more of a GitHub concept. And what pull requests are is just as it sounds, right? It's a request that you create. They're also known as PRs, right? Pull requests slash PRs. And you basically make a request saying that, hey, I want to merge my branch. So in this case, let's say you are merging F1, my branch F1, into a base branch, which will usually be your main branch. So you want to do something like this. But instead of just going ahead and merging it, you want someone to leave a review on it. You want someone to look at it, leave some comments. And what GitHub does is when you create this pull request, there's a little tab for pull request. When you create it, it'll create a nice little UI for you, right? Where it'll have your changes and the base branch right next to each other in a split view. And it'll show you exactly things that have been removed in red, right? These are things that you have removed that were in main, and then it'll also show you things that you have added that were not in main, but you have added them. And that way people can go ahead and leave some comments, right, on things that you have removed or added. And they can also review it, right? They can either request for changes, or they can say that, you know what, all looks good. They'll give you an approve, and you can go ahead and merge your branch into main. So pull request is a great way to collaborate with people, make sure your master is always in the green status, right? Always passing, always good for production. It's never breaking. So it's kind of like another extra step, another set of eyes to look at your changes. So that is the concept of branches in Git and GitHub. That was a quick overview and mostly theory. Hope that was helpful, and thank you for watching.